Because he says, in our law, and I think this is only true for Athenian law, so far as I know, he said the basic principle of our law, he said, is that you are given the opportunity, if you disagree with what we are doing, to persuade us that we are wrong. And therefore, if you stay in our community, you always have that right to oppose us and persuade us that you're wrong. Therefore, if you do try and fail to persuade us, well, then you have to take the consequences. And he says this is so important. This is so important because what he is therefore doing in terms of his own values and the value I just mentioned, he turns this into a dialogue with the state. And he has a dialogue with 501 people. Yeah, let me get you that quote from the Credo, because it's a good quote. Yeah, here we are. Okay. In the Credo can only reason to a certain point and he can't go any further, so therefore Socrates imagines that he's talking with a woman who represents the law itself. So at this point he says, this is the law speaking to Socrates, as it were. Are you so wise that you failed to see that something else is more precious than father and mother and all your ancestors, your country? Something more reverend, more holy, of greater value as the God's judge, and any man that have sense. Here it is. You must honor and obey and conciliate your country when angry more than a father. You must either persuade her or do whatever she commands. You must either persuade her or do what she commands. You must bear in quiet anything she bids you bear, be it stripes or prison, or if she leads you to war, to be wounded or to die, this you must do. It's right. You must not give way or retreat or leave your post, but in war and in court and everywhere else, you must do whatever the city or the country commands, or else convince her where the right lies. Or convince her where the right lies. Oppose the law, take the opportunity to convince her where the right lies, and you're law-abiding by the higher principle of law. That's the law, he says, is the most significant thing in Athens. That law. Disagree? Convince us where the right lies. Did he do it? Therefore, he took this exceptional opportunity to dialogue with 501 people at once, expose them to philosophy, represent philosophy in himself, open himself up like the book, show himself in respect to all of his beliefs about his role as a philosopher in respect to himself, others, and the God. And that was his final testimony. So therefore, when they offered him the chance to escape from jail, he says, look here, I made the deal. I made the deal. I broke the law, and now I'm going to try to convince and persuade her where the right lies, and I'll take the consequences for that great gift.
Well, his alternative was to prove them wrong. He would have had to prove that he was not a philosopher.
That's right. Good for you. I like that. Keep going. Go ahead. Yes.
So he'd show them that he was not a philosopher, that he would destroy his whole argument.
That's right. And he would no longer be right? He would have broken the command of God. He'd given up his duty. Absolutely right.
That would have been a greater mistake.
Yes, a greater mistake. Yeah.
So he took the lesser penalty.
He took the lesser. Yeah. So this is one of the great dialogues, and one of the dialogues I like best. And therefore, I've tried to make the case that Socrates represents the spiritual dimension of philosophy. And one more point now, watch this one. This is a curious one. I mentioned in the last lecture that you could be Platonic, but you could not be Socratic.
Yeah, explain that.
Because, number one, where do you get your job? God. right?
Most of us.
Most of us don't get our jobs from God.
I didn't get a special recommendation.
That's right. All right. Not only that, the second condition, right? Have a very interesting conscience that works with you from your earliest days. And most remarkable about Socrates is, of course, that he obeyed it. But he had this new spiritual thing instead of a belief in a God that guided him in his whole life negatively. Well, if you have that, and you have the courage to follow it, and you have been persuaded to take on this job of being a philosopher, but that is rather curious, because what kind of a spiritual life do you think he must lead? Now, let me ask you, okay, let's see whether we can get a total picture of it, because this is a section I often reflect on. It gives me a chance to reflect on it with you. And I have been commanded by the God to do this through oracles, dreams, and in every way in which some divine influence has ever commanded a man to do anything. What are all the ways in which there can be a divine influence on a man? Come on. What are all the ways? What are all the ways in which some divine influence can affect a man?
Divination, inspiration.
Inspiration, divination, meditation, contemplation, yoga, whatever it is, that whole set of ways in which which a God influences man, as far as Socrates is saying, I've gotten them all. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, that's what it's saying.
That's what it includes. That's a very, very interesting and full life. And I maintain that I've been commanded by the God to do this through oracles and dreams, and in every way in which some divine influence or other has ever commanded a man to do anything. That's quite a few, isn't it?
In the mystery religions at that time, would a person undergo that kind of experience?
I'm glad you asked. Thank you. I haven't got the faintest idea of the mysteries. I've read as much as I have been able to about them, but you know, there's more speculation than there is data.
Because at least my understanding is that they do undergo some kind of revelations.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Somebody, rightly or wrongly, they feel that they are being spoken to.
That's absolutely right. That's one of the amazing things about the Greek mysteries. It seems to have gone on for 1,000 years, and no one has ever left an adequate record of exactly what was going on and described it. Never.
Socrates can attack the Delphi Oracle, but it was going on for like 1,000 years, and you sort of have to accept the fact that these people weren't stupid.
Oh, he has a great affinity with the Greek mysteries. Well, there are various places, the Meno, the Symposium, and other places where he talks about the mysteries.
Well, the Delphi Oracle actually supported him.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying.
As a matter of fact, they were right. There was no one wiser. He turned it around in his own Socratic way, didn't he?
Yeah.
And proved it, and proved it on a level which most people would never have thought of.
Would you know how the church fathers viewed Socrates?
Or, well,